Hi everyone, I'm Ariel Powers. You might know me as a WNBA player. You also might know me as a Team Liquid content creator or as the chair of Team Liquid's Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. We're excited to bring you this episode of Voices with Team Liquid, highlighting women in the gaming industry. Today, we're pleased to introduce to you two of Team Liquid's executives. Please welcome Josie Brown and Khalilah El-Amin. Josie is Team Liquid's Senior Vice President of Brand, Marketing, and Content. Khalilah is the Vice President of People and Culture at Team Liquid. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Yeah, really good.
I'm excited to have you guys on this episode of Voices. What exactly with Team Liquid branding, what about it specifically reeled you guys in?
If you allow me, I would love to read Team Liquid's corporate vision and values.
We would love that.
Okay.
We'd love that. Do it.
We have a vision of a kinder, more respectful world where anyone can feel comfortable and validated just by being their down-to-earth and quirky self. And the three values that really resonated with me were pursuing excellence, we honor and celebrate the never-ending journey and challenge of self-improvement. Integrity, we choose to do the right thing even when it isn't easy. And inclusivity, we commit to being a part of an equalizing force to create safer communities and humanize differences. And so for someone like me who doesn't necessarily have an esports background, but was obviously joining a premier organization, a winning organization, that part was easy, right? It's no question that Team Liquid's brand is, phenomenal, but it was really, the second part about the vision and values that connected me to everything that the organization is doing.
God, it's good to hear the vision again. You know what I mean? Like it is on the walls and it is on the website, but to hear someone else say it out loud, it kind of, gave me all the warm and fuzzies, which I guess is the point, right? Like,
yes.
It's good to hear that out loud.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Thanks.
No, I love that, and that's the reason why I wanted to be a part of TL too. And it's so funny when you say inclusivity because everyone knows me as a basketball player, and then esports is so different. But the amazing thing about TL, it all felt the same. Like it felt like a family. It feels like I'm supposed to be here, right? So I love that you read those because it really matched with me as well. What about you, Josie? I know she read the core values and it aligned with all of us, but what in a different way reeled you in to TL?
For me, I just want to be with the best. So when Team Liquid came knocking and they're the most victorious esports. I mean, if you're going to join an esports organization, you're going to shift your whole life into a completely different industry. You're going to join the best. You're not going to, there's no one else. So, joining the most victorious esports company, it's a premier brand. It was a no-brainer. And then just the final kind of cherry on the top was Claire. She was who I did my interviews with. Coming to work for a woman leader was so important to me. I just had a string of male bosses and some of them didn't even have families. It was so hard to connect with them in any way. So it was innovative. It's where I think the future is headed. It's an audience that's so motivating to me. And then I had a woman boss. I mean, it was the home run.
There's so many things that I love about TL, and when you hit on the core values, that was one thing that drew me to TL. Many people, when, I started preaching about how much I love esports, they didn't really know that. They knew me as Ariel Powers, the basketball player, especially coming off the championship. I was starting to get into Twitch. So people were like, oh, she likes esports, but it was always a part of my life, right? And competing is in my blood. So when I started to do more things empowering women in the space, it was strictly because that was just a passion of mine. And because I'm a WNBA player, we're always compared to the men, right? And for video gaming, I was like, how are we still getting compared to men when
it's the burden of any successful woman, though, isn't it? It's to be compared to her male counterparts.
Yeah. And for me, it was very hard to witness because, as an athlete, it's always they're bigger, they're stronger, this and that. But if you're playing a game, it's all about the skills. It's all about how much you work in practice. It's nothing physical. So the fact that I felt like females in this space was getting compared to men because they're just females, I was like, what do I do? And that's kind of where myself and Team Liquid kind of came together, because this is important to them too. Women in gaming, diversity. And that's when I was like you said, it's the winningest organization. I'm like, this goes hand in hand. Everything that I love about esports and things I want to change. Why does it feel like in esports, why are we so behind in the industry when it comes to the number of women in the space?
I think we haven't permitted women to play, right? Like, if you go back a few decades, right, we never gave women permission to play anything. Sports, just play around in general, take risks on the schoolyard, like play games. But as a society, we've always given that permission to men. So like, that's the first reason.
We've been socialized to believe that, girls and women just shouldn't be a part of certain things, unfortunately. The bad news is that it's a reality in esports. And then the more bad news is that it's a reality probably in lots of different industries.
Yeah.
I mean, look at, the WNBA versus the NBA, right? How long has that taken to try to bring some parity there, And then the triple bad news is that when you compound it with race or age or anything else, there's just, even more of an uphill battle.
I agree with that. The first thing that comes to my mind when you guys were talking is, I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a young girl, I always loved basketball. Always, right? I went over to my grandmother's house, and this was my great-grandmother's house. So, great-grandmother. Okay. So just put that in your
Got
head,
it. Yep.
right? So she's used to certain things growing up. Guys do this, girls do this, right? So I'm like, oh, Grandma, the boys are down on the street playing basketball. Can I go? She's like, no, you can't go. And I'm like, why? My dad would let me go. She's like, no, he wouldn't. The guys are down there. Do you see any girls down there? I said, no, but I play all the time. She goes, well, call your dad. I'm like, fine, I'll call my dad, right? I called my dad, and I'm like, hey, I want to go down the street and play basketball, but Grandma won't let me. Why won't she let me? See, I didn't realize that my father had been more of an ally, right? He knew. He would take me to the courts with guys. He would teach me how to play, all that, right? So when it came down to this situation where I'm calling my dad, he's like, I'll explain to you later why she might feel this way. Just have your older cousin go down the street with you. So my older cousin went down the street with me. And it was crazy because the more and more I started to play and the better I got. I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. My grandmother came to me one day. She sat me down and she said, sorry. And the reason she said sorry is something that you said, that wasn't presented to her at that time. So she didn't know any better. And she didn't have those opportunities to play. And she only knew one way, right? So it's crazy. So the more opportunities that these young girls have, the more things you're going to see us doing. But it's so crazy because what you guys are saying is what I went through at that time. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, that was one of your first barriers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now look at me as a WNBA player. But what if my parents thought that way? I wouldn't be where I am today. The esports industry is facing challenges around toxicity. How does a workplace protect against toxic behaviors or habits?
It's really important for us to define toxicity and call it out and say what it is, because, I hear a lot of people who defend toxic behavior suggests that it is just them being passionate or them being demanding or them, working really hard. And there is a difference between kind of demanding and demeaning. And when we think about, toxic behavior, we have to call it out. We have to know what it is, and we have to make sure that we all agree on what it is so that we can do something about it. And so we are not talking about, someone working hard on on a project and possibly working, a few
No.
late nights and things
Oh,
like
no,
that.
that's not
right?
even it.
That's not
Yeah.
it. We are talking about,
People throwing things, like
unethic-
physically
yes,
throwing things across
that's
rooms,
right.
Like I've been
Yes,
in
me
like,
too.
spaces like that where I've had things thrown at me.
people standing on desks.
Yep.
What?
Fingers in my face,
yeah.
and it's not other women that are doing this,
Yeah.
right? You're dealing with like the
Yes.
kind of toxic masculinity that you're like, I didn't even know this was still a
Yeah.
thing. I thought we canceled that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
fingers
what?
in your face is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, there is unethical behavior, and we all know what that is. We
Yeah.
all know what narcissism looks like. What someone with low integrity, yelling and abusive, and sometimes even if you can't verbally identify it, sometimes we feel it first.
Yeah.
In your
Yeah.
gut, and you have to be able to acknowledge it before you are ready to do something about it. And so we have to identify it first. Yeah.
And I think people are, I'm just going to say, I think there are a lot of personalities in the esports space that are getting called out for it. The tolerance is diminishing day by day.
Yeah.
And, there's this sense that, hey, we all deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
We deserve better leaders. We deserve better spaces. And if we can craft that together, then we'll get to that space. But, honestly, it's... If you, as long as your CEO is not partying with Andrew Tate at the club, we're good. It's just like that was a drop the mic. I'm just saying what we all thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Drop the mic.
You all know what I was thinking. Should we end on an optimistic note of
No,
being a woman is awesome?
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be anything else. By the way.
This is real. These are real life discussions. And like we mentioned earlier, I feel like these are things we should talk about, And the podcast was great. You guys did amazing. You guys are, like I said, badass women. And I appreciate you guys for coming on Voices, honestly.
Thank you.
It was fun to do.
Can I call you AP now?
You can call me
Okay,
AP,
all right.
yeah.
Are we at the AP level?
Yes.
Yeah, we're there. We spent like so much time together. I got to know you guys even more. Like, yeah, AP.
All right.
Okay,
Great.
cool.
Thank
Cool,
you.
cool,
Thank
cool,
you.
cool, cool. Mm.